What's up, gamers? Pax Dei is officially out in early access, and I want to spend some time with you to break it down, whether it's worth playing right now, jumping in at a later point, or if you want to skip out on this game entirely. As a fan of MMORPGs who came up in the Sandbox Final Fantasy XI world, I really do like what I'm seeing here with Pax Dei, so I thought I would spend some of my time, because you guys have asked me on live streams and in the comments of videos, what do I think about this game, and is it worth the price point, especially for early access? So let's get into it. First and foremost, thank you guys so much for those of you who are new to the channel and subbing over here. I always want to earn your subscription, and if I do, sound off in the comments so I can officially welcome you to the channel, both in video form and in the comments. But a huge shout out to the 35% of you guys who are watching the videos. I appreciate you guys so very much, and part of the 65%, you're awesome as well. Thank you so much for being here, and hopefully I'll be able to get you in that subscription status at some point in the future. But let's dive into the reason why you clicked on this video. Like I said, I actually really love sandbox MMORPGs. And if you don't know the term, or if you've never played a sandbox MMO, I do want to speak to you directly for just a second. Sandbox is driven off of the players. It's driven off of a community, where theme park can really be more of a, story-driven, personalized experience MMO for you. Neither are wrong. It's all going to be a matter of preference as to what you are looking for when sitting down and playing a game. We've seen Sandbox become less and less part of any mainstay MMO, and that's why Pax Dei is so interesting. And the reason is that social media has actually come in and taken over a huge chunk of what people used to get from those old sandbox MMOs. They were acting like virtual chat rooms back in the day, and they have since shifted into that more engagement farming social media that essentially has happened. And so that's one of the reasons why you've seen a decline in the sandbox MMO. And because of that, these games need players. So your experience of this game could vary wildly whether you want to play it solo or you want to play it with a group. Meaning you can actually play this game solo, but just note it's going to be a massive undertaking. It's going to require a lot more time, and obviously groups, guilds, etc. are going to have a much better, faster time because they can have players focusing on that experience. What that does, though, is it actually opens up the social aspect of the MMO. It actually brings it back. It takes it off of the social media and brings it into the core game, and most likely being run via Discord, which is one of the things that I want to see them actually integrate with. I'd love to see, especially sandbox MMOs, actively integrate with Discord just to help bridge that gap in community. But this game is also not just a sandbox MMO, it acts like a survival RPG to a degree. Think of it like Valheim on steroids, with this massive persistent world, and one that you can build and take full advantage of. It is gorgeous, it is beautiful, but it's going to be a grind. You can think of this, as I've seen others express online, it's a grind simulator. This is a game that is not meant to be sped run. It is a game meant to kind of have you really appreciate every inch of progress that you make. So if you are more the theme park MMORPG player, think Final Fantasy XIV and World of Warcraft, for example, you're going to feel like a fish out of water. There's going to be a quote-unquote language difference in how you approach this game. There is no main story quest. There are no quests in this game. The quests are all defined based off of what you want to do. And so you need to have some level of, you know what, I'm going to try to do this today to really kind of build out and create your own fun. As the game evolves and the community gets more established, you're going to see the story of the game, not just in the lore, the world, and what's all happened kind of behind the scenes, but also in terms of what players are doing in the game. We will see this naturally as sandbox MMOs are really driven off of the content that players can create. And this actually creates and fills in a lot of the problems that theme park MMO players express, especially when the game is a long-running theme park and also incredibly successful. Sandbox kind of addresses that, but let's not shoot ourselves in the foot in saying that you're going to absolutely love Sandbox. You might absolutely hate it. And so that's why I want to jump into, should you play now or should you wait for more? In terms of playing right now, there is not a subscription, but they're probably going to have a subscription in the future. Sandbox is something that is going to require that because populations are going to be much lower. We've seen theme parks shift into the buy-to-play or free-to-play and try to attract as many people as possible, thus focusing in on single player. Sandbox, focusing in on multiplayer, is going to have a niche audience. And some of the systems and features they bring into Pax Dei, like full loop PvP, which is optional and is only in a certain area of the world, but still having that as an option, some people might get nervous that somebody could come in and grief you. Thankfully, in the core game, no. Only if you go into those areas in which that you could actually experience that. But note, that is a niche within a niche of the genre itself. So that being said, having a subscription makes that possible. It actually makes that sustainable for the developers as well, and helps keep people kind of invested. You know that everybody who's playing has skin in the game, as opposed to cash shops that try to nickel and dime you. But this will cause people to label the game pay to win, namely because player trading. You can get in, people can gift you whatever you need. You can spend real money on services outside of the game. That will be a thing. But I wouldn't do any of that now if you're considering it, because being that this is an early access alpha, well, it could end up causing some wipes in the game. So just note, don't get taken advantage of if you decide to kind of break terms of service and go out on your own in that regards. Speaking of which, like I said, this is an alpha, meaning this is not even yet in a beta stage. I think actually Force Gaming kind of puts it really interesting when he says, I think that we need 2 tiers of early access. Early access that feels polished, pretty much systems and mechanics complete, more content coming over time, and then very early access. This is barely a game. This is the gulf between some early access games that I played, and it's very crazy. Think of Pax Dei as that very early access game. It's still got a lot of work ahead of it. It's still got a lot of systems that are in place, but this is one of the ways that they can really gather a lot of data and the community can start to form. But if we want to contrast this with something like No Rest for the Wicked, that is the polished experience, and we're just waiting on more content. And while they continue to cook that steak, I think it's going to be a real exciting time to see. Guys, I personally really enjoy this game. I highly recommend it. I've been following Pax Dei since they announced it. I've played it in every alpha, and I have purchased the $100 edition. You don't need to spend $100 to enjoy this game. It starts at $40 as a part of early access. But for me, I really want this game to succeed. I really want to see Sandbox have a stake, have a hold with all the modern, engines and all the technology that they're bringing in. And I think they actually deliver on this, being that it is an Unreal Engine 5 and it looks just phenomenal. So I'm along for the ride. I'm really excited to see where it goes from here. Now, as a part of a community discussion that I like to do in these videos, Ellen and Clary says, pricing on this early access is insanely high. If you read the fine print, on top of the initial fee, they will start charging you a monthly sub, which is ridiculous for a game with no content. Warning to all of those who want to try the game, I got bored in the Wilderness Alpha after a couple of days. There is absolutely nothing to do besides very grindy, time-consuming survival gathering, unbalanced crafting, and very limited building to your tiny plot. There's only a couple of building sets, and the combat feels like a ton of work to be even playable. Don't buy this. And I push back right now. Thankfully, the subscription will not come in to play until after the game is released. That's actually why it might be a lot of fun to play now. It's a cheaper option, and you get to have that direct line with feedback. But they're not wrong. There's not an insane amount of content that you might find enjoyable. So it's obviously a really easy way to wait. Be honest with yourself. Don't let this video or any other hype, discussion around a game or just the desire to play a new MMO drive you into an experience where you're just going to end up being upset, because that in and of itself I think is a real loss. But we do see that from time to time. Be honest with yourself. If you're somebody who doesn't mind early access games that evolve over time, that get better with your feedback, wait. There's nothing wrong with it. The game's still going to be around. I'll be keeping you guys up to date on all of the developments and the news regarding these MMOs. But as I like to do in these videos, let's wrap it up with a message of hope. For those of you out there, it's tough. Life can be really hard, but you're worth living for. I want you to know that, and I want you to believe that at your core. If you're not necessarily happy with where you are in life or the things that are going around, just note that it can and will get better, but it really starts with you making that choice for yourself. If you think you can, or if you think you can't, well, you're right. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So I would encourage you to think that you can. And if you need help, if you are just struggling, I personally really enjoy therapy. I recommend it for a lot of people, but not everybody has that within their budget. But you can always jump into the Discord server. You can always reach out. We're a community here that want to help. It's free. Top link in the description if you need that in your life. But beyond that, I just want you to live. I want you to not just kind of get by, but I want you to actually live. And I know that can be really hard. And I've shared some of my story in the past. We'll continue to share that story and these messages of hope in these videos and so much more. Thank you guys so much for your time. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you. And outside of that, I just wish you all the absolute best. Thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you next time. But until then, take care.